In today's world, friendships between boys and girls are very common. At school, college, workplaces, and even in churches, young men and women interact every day. So the question many Christians ask is this: is it wrong to have friendships with the opposite sex? The answer is not simply yes or no. The Bible does not say that men and women cannot speak to each other or be friends. But Scripture does teach us something very important: wisdom and boundaries. God designed men and women differently. One of the strongest drives God placed in human beings is the sexual drive. It is powerful, and it exists for a purpose: marriage and the continuation of the human race. Because that desire is so strong, God also gave clear moral boundaries to protect us. One of the ways God tests our hearts is through sexual purity. In fact, the Bible connects the fear of God with how a person handles sexual temptation. Every day, people are tested, not only by physical actions, but by their thought life. A man may say he fears God, but when he sees an attractive woman, what happens in his mind? Does he entertain the thought, admire it, and keep looking? Or does he quickly turn his eyes away? That moment reveals something about the heart. The Bible warns in Proverbs 6 not to be captured by beauty or drawn in by seductive looks. The danger often begins with something that seems small: just a glance, just a conversation, just a little attention. But small things can slowly become bigger problems. Imagine two strong magnets. When you bring a North Pole and a South Pole close together, they naturally pull toward each other. You might try to hold them apart, but if they get too close, suddenly they snap together. Relationships between young men and women can sometimes be like that. What begins as casual friendship can slowly move closer and closer until one day it crosses a line. Many people who fall into sin never planned it. They simply allowed the distance to disappear little by little. This is why wisdom is so important. The Bible does not teach us to become strange or antisocial. Boys and girls can speak to each other normally in school, college, or work. Christians should not act unnatural, but the key question is how we behave and what boundaries we keep. For example, do you spend all your time talking to one particular person of the opposite sex? Do your conversations become overly personal or emotionally dependent? Do you begin sharing things with that person that should only be shared with your future spouse? These are warning signs. For married people, the standard is even higher. A simple test is this: if your husband or wife suddenly walked into the room while you were talking to someone of the opposite sex, would you feel uncomfortable? If the answer is yes, then something is wrong. Your behavior should be the same whether your spouse is present or not. Christians are also called to maintain physical boundaries. A handshake may be normal, but placing your arms around someone who is not your spouse can easily create the wrong kind of closeness. It may also give the wrong testimony to others. The goal is not to live in fear, the goal is to live in purity and wisdom. In a world that treats relationships casually, believers are called to live differently. Sometimes people may even think you are old-fashioned or overly careful, but protecting your purity today will protect your future tomorrow. One day, if God leads you into marriage, you will be thankful that you guarded your heart and your life, because a strong marriage is built long before the wedding day. It begins with the choices you make while you are still single, so remember this simple principle: friendships with the opposite sex are not wrong, but boundaries, wisdom, and purity are essential. Honor God with your thoughts, your words, and your relationships.